ago. We decided at that time that we would take up two basic issues, although we do have a broad general platform. But the two basic issues that we decided to take up were the Confederate battle flag in South Carolina. We felt that it was an atrocity that the same General Assembly, so to speak, that sent those boys out to die in 1861 was the same General Assembly that took down the Confederate flag at this building behind me. We figured that needed to be addressed. And I'm not going to say that any other organization would take it on, but it was, the situation as it is right now. But the battle flag was our first issue, and the second issue was illegal immigration. We felt like that the illegals among us taking our jobs and things like that was basically an insult to every working American that's trying to feed his family, etc. But we won't talk about that today. We're here for our original purpose, what you were invited for. The South Carolina Conservative Action Council appreciates every one of you who came out today in this heat. Some of you drove a long way. We've got some guys here who come from Georgia. Anybody come from further away than Georgia? If you're here, let me know. Where from?
Virginia.
Virginia, okay. So we got some diehards here today, and we want to honor them. We're going to try to keep our speeches a little bit brief. I know that you don't want to go on too long. We have the grounds till 4 o'clock, but we hope we'll be done before then because of the heat. Let me basically just tell you that I decided about a year and a half ago that we were going to have this event today because somebody in this state needed to address what the General Assembly did 10 years ago. It's an insult to every one of us. And we also need to address the people that made it possible. I'm talking about the news media that propagated the myth about the Confederate flag for the last 20 years. The same newspaper that probably doesn't have a reporter here today. Is anybody here from the state newspaper? Hey, we do have a reporter. That's good. I want you to get this right now. We feel that without the state newspaper, that the flag would still be on the dome. We saw that many of the articles that the state published over a period of 10 years were twisted and distorted against our position. We found very little fairness in the state newspaper for a very long time. And the state newspaper changed ownership in 1976. Knight Ridder took possession of the newspaper, and the editorial section of that paper changed dramatically over a period of years to one that was very anti-Southern heritage, against the Confederate flag and the Confederate veterans who died in that war. So I'm sorry? Founder of the state paper was a Confederate veteran. So you can see the atrocities that happened since 1976 anyway. Now, many of you from the South know everything I'm about to tell you, but we've been the subject for a long time of bigotry and hatred ourselves. Many of the same people who want to accuse us of racism and bigotry and hatred are the same people that call us rednecks, white trash, and things of that nature. And as a proud Southerner, I want to tell you that we're not going to take that anymore, okay? Amen. We've had enough of that. And let's put it to you this way. If you're going into foreign service, let's say you're going to go to a foreign country and you're going to be a diplomat. You go to Georgetown School of Foreign Study and you study the culture and the nuances of the country that you're going to represent. Let's say you're going to Cameroon in Africa. You study about their dress, their eating customs, their social society, their social customs. We don't want to offend anybody, it seems. We do everything, we go out of our way not to offend any foreign country, their culture, their eating norms and whatnot.
That's absolutely right.
But if you look at the United States, the only Americans in the United States that it's all right to defile all right to exhibit regional prejudice against, with all kind of epithets and negatives, is Southern Americans. We're projected as ignorant Southerners. And, you know, we've got to rise above that, folks. The same thing been accused against us, we've got to rise above that and come to an understanding that we have got to fight for our rights. And we've got to fight for our heritage if we're going to progress as a society and as a people. We've become second-class citizens, in fact, in our own country today. And, you know, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. But the organization that I am leading right now, we're in our first year of development. This is our first really big attempt at a rally. We did have one in Greenville last summer that was fairly successful. But we're not afraid to take on the hard issues, folks. Conservative action is exactly what we're behind, conservative action. We want to bring the grassroots, the working class people of South Carolina, and give them an opportunity to address the issues that the politicians have taken away from them. Okay, what happened 10 years ago? 10 years ago, polls showed that between 65 and 70% of South Carolinians wanted the flag to stay up on the Capitol Dome. 65 to 70%. The politicians ignored us. The Chamber of Commerce got in. The NAACP put pressure on the legislature here in South Carolina. We were the subject of economic blackmail. Outsiders came into this state and got involved in an area that they had no business. This was an internal affair in the state of South Carolina. And as a result of that, I feel like in many respects that the 65 to 70% of the citizens that wanted that flag to stay on the Capitol Dome because they knew it represented their ancestors, their history, and their heritage, in many respects were raped by the establishment, by the economic establishment, by the political elite who made an inside deal inside this building and totally ignored the will of the majority. Now, I said years ago when we had events out here that they always called for one man, one vote in South Africa. You remember when Nelson Mandela was in prison, they brought him out. They demanded one man, one vote. They had an election in South Africa. In fact, they used to say, one man, one vote, one time. That's what happened in Rhodesia. One man, one vote, one time. What we're calling on is the politicians in this legislature to give us the same opportunity. We want a referendum in the form of a constitutional amendment to the state constitution of South Carolina that will allow the citizens in South Carolina to go to the ballot box and vote as to whether they want the flag, not to just stay on the Soldiers Monument. We don't have a problem with that. But whether we're going to put the flag back on the dome and back in the House and Senate chambers. Okay? Now, how do I have the audacity to say that? Okay? 10 years after the fact that they took it down. A lot of people would say, this guy's got to be certifiable, mentally unstable to think that we can accomplish that. Well, let me tell you why I say that. The majority of the people in this state are still behind our position. The latest polls showed, and I think it was in the state newspaper if I'm not mistaken, 39.1% of the people were against the flag on the Soldiers Monument. 39.1% of the people wanted to keep the flag on the Soldiers Monument, and 17% of the people wanted to put the flag back on the dome. And that wasn't even an option in the poll. 17% of the people wanted to put it back up. So if you take that 39 and the 17, we've got them beat even 10 years after the fact. And if we could get a constitutional amendment and let the voters vote on this, we can still follow in the footsteps of the legislature in Mississippi that allowed their people in a true democratic form to vote on this issue. And that's how it should be settled. It shouldn't be settled in a smoke-filled room with wheeling and dealing in this legislature. The Democrats talk about democracy, but they don't want to give us the vote. Okay? So that's what we're calling for at this rally. This is rally number one. This is day one of our fight to put the flag back where it belongs. to put it back on the Capitol dome. Bring that out here, Keith. This is an appropriate ending to my segment. This is what we're all about. Stretch it out. Let us vote. Let us vote.
That's absolutely right.
If this is a democracy, then let us vote. Let us vote. Thank you very much.